All right, so let's take a look at this example here. Wants us to draw a Venn diagram and use the information that's given to fill in what X, Y, Z, and W are. A really nice problem here. This is what it tells us, okay? All right, it gives us this information. And also the great thing is that the Venn diagram is already drawn for us as well, all right? So we just have to fill these things in. So when we're working with Venn diagrams, we want to work on the inside out. So we really want to start here and then kind of start working our way out. The center of the Venn diagram is always kind of like the heart, so that's where we want to start. So let's take a look and see if we know what the center is. Right, so the center part is, this center part is the intersection of A and B. Right, so that's the intersection of A and B. So the question is, are we given that information? Looks like we are. Looks like they tell us that that is 10. So that's great. So that's the first thing we're doing here. All right. That's first. It tells us that's 10. So we can go ahead and fill that in with a 10. Right. So that crosses off that first part. And now if we take a look here, it tells us a couple of other things. It tells us the universal. It tells us what A is, and tells us what the complement of B is. So let's take a look at A, because remember, we want to work our inside out. It says A is 22. So it tells us that this entire circle, is 22. But we already have 10, right? So the second thing that we're going to do, if it tells us that A is 22, in order to just find this, all we have to do from that 22 is subtract 10, because that is still part of A, right? So all we have to do is do 22 minus 10, right? And when we do our 22 and we take away our 10, right, it should give you a nice number like 12, telling us that that is 12. Right, so now we know that part. Okay. So let's continue here. All right, so now we have those first two parts, right? So taking a look here, we can check that off. Now we need to work with either one of these two numbers. So let's see what we can do. It tells us that everything is 35. It tells us that everything is 35. Right, but I don't think we can work with that yet. Right? But it does tell us that the complement of B is 17. So let's really understand what this means. The complement of B is 17. Right? That means everything outside of B. Is 17. So if we were to look at this Venn diagram again, right, we have A, we have B. We already know these two numbers. All right. What this tells us is everything outside of B. Everything in yellow, is 17. Well, we already know that part of it is 12. So in order to find what W is, all we have to do is from this 17, subtract what we already know, which is 12. And when we do that, that tells us that W is 5. So now we have our next number. All right, so that was our third step, telling us that W is 5 right there. And now we can find the last step here, right? Now we can go ahead and go with our fourth step, which is finding z. Right, and this is where we use this universal number, right? If everything is 35, all we have to do from that 35 is subtract the numbers that we already know. Minus 10, minus 12, minus 5. Right, so what do we get when we do 35 minus 10 minus 12 minus 5 gives us 8, therefore telling us that our z there is 8. Right, so we are able to find all of these numbers with the information given.